was our 2x2 formation. Red change now, we go racing for the first time this season. 3 hours of GT action, it's go.
It's very tight as they come down. Group of cars coming in, this has all got trouble written all over it. This is G3 cars.
Drop downhill there, head towards the Aqua Minerale. Imola, of course. There's another one off through the gravel. As wide as possible as they drop downhill, putting that from the inside line. Yes, he did. Through he goes.
Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Good evening everybody, and welcome to round 3 of Apex Online Racing here at Brands Hatch. And my name is John Watts, and joining me once again in the commentary box tonight is my good friend Tim. Tim, how you doing, buddy?
Hello John, yeah, very glad to be here. Bit of a change of roles for us this evening, isn't it?
Yes, we've had a little bit of a switcheroo on who is hosting and then who the just effectively who is broadcasting this. That is my responsibility tonight, so hopefully all shall be working well. If there are any issues with audio or just anything really, then please do put something in the chat and I shall do my best to sort things out, but hopefully, fingers crossed, all should be good and all should be well. So yeah, Brands Hatch then, a circuit with very high commitment corners and quite an unforgiving one at that, and not one I believe that we have had on the AOR calendar for a while, so I think it should provide us with some pretty good racing today.
There was some fantastic racing in Tier 1 last night, if anyone managed to watch that, with some seriously intense battles going on throughout the entire race. I think it was pretty much a 5-way battle for the lead pretty much all the way to the end, so fingers crossed we get to see some close battles like that, but maybe with a little less contact again. Let's hope. But you know, Tier 2 is known for its cleanness. We're the cleanest of the AORs.
Yes, absolutely. It was a shame. You know, the first half of the lap in Tier 1 last night was actually pretty clean, and then as soon as we got to the top part of the hill around Hawthorne Bend and then into Westfield, all hell broke loose. And unfortunately, as is the way with a lot of these guys, that when you're all pushing so hard to get any advantage you can over one another, and there's also a lot of vision that's obscured a lot of the time as well from other cars on the circuit, that these split-second misjudgments do happen. They can unfortunately lead to some pretty dire consequences, but hopefully Tier 2 has mostly been able to prove that it has some pretty clean and respectful drivers, and fingers crossed we shall see that showcased again. Obviously last week at the Nürburgring we didn't have sort of too much action at the front. We had Mark Toll that ran away from the very beginning, and unfortunately, as far as I can see on my screen, that he is not on the grid tonight, so that potentially opens up some opportunities for other people.
Yeah, surprising not see him here. Real shame, actually, and like you said, because he is right up there at the pointy end of the championship. I'll have a quick jump on now and just give us an idea of who is where and what is what. So the overall standings, as they stand at the moment in Tier 2, is Grantis Caracas and Musa Masum, both with 171 points, and they've both had a second and a third in our first 2 rounds. Then with Jan Garbus with 132 points with 2 fifth place finishes. Dennis Latz with 110. He's had a 7th and a 6th. And then Tommy Razier, and he has had a 1st and a 28th. It was a real stinker for him last week, wasn't it? It was did not go to plan for him whatsoever.
Yeah, that was a very unfortunate series of events for him, and also, you know, we saw on the opening lap as well, if I remember rightly, that there was that contact between Masum and Marlon Andrade, and yes, that obviously sent Marlon's race into spiral, but it gave Masum a little bit of extra work to do with the damage that he suffered from. So yeah, it was once again a showcase of having to just approach lap 1 with just a little bit of caution and not throwing everything in the kitchen sink at the race in the first couple of minutes.
Right, so time's starting to roll in now. The first man across the line, I actually thought was going to set a time. He dirtied his lap. That was kind of a 45. Where's he gone to on the timing board? That was Garbus. He actually was our first man on a flyer, but he went a bit wide. So at the moment, Dennis Latz with a 1:23.492 and already into the pits. Immediately set 1 flyer and he's jumped into the pits. So is he possibly running on no fuel whatsoever? I mean, that's a very brave move if he is deciding to run on that little fuel, where he's literally got enough to do 1 flyer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I would be surprised if he didn't look to try to get in more than 1 lap for the session. So I'm sure that he has already headed out. But yes, maybe a slight miscalculation there. Or it could also have just been the rush to get out in front before anyone else on the circuit to get a lap together, because it can be really difficult to try to find a spot sometimes in such a busy pack, to find somewhere that you can get some space and put together that qualifying lap. And Brands Hatch is not exactly a track that's going to be too kind to follow around, because you end up pushing the limits so hard, really maximising every bit of track that you can get, as we see improvements from both Marco Jonkers and Vince van Meerveld to put those 2 McLarens into 1st and 2nd respectively. And some pretty good times so far, already down to the low end of the 23s. And as then Tommy Razier goes and improves on his time, our winner and dramatic winner from Paul Ricard in the first round, but obviously had quite a bit of a shocker at the Nürburgring, but not too long on the top step before Mr. Consistency himself, Grantis Caracas, goes into provisional P1. And already I think we're seeing a little bit of a developing trend that we kind of saw in Tier 1 last night, of a lot of McLarens near the pointy end of the field.
Really good to see. I'm just having a look at actually, yeah, Caracas's time in sector 1 and 2 was the fastest we've seen, and yeah, Reyes currently holding on to the 3rd sector fastest time, but what looks to be by 0.03 of a second. Oh, there we go. Actually, Yonkers taken away the fastest time for sector 1. So the top 3 have all got their own fastest sectors.
I was just looking to go on board with Yonkers there, hoping that he was on a flyer, and he's just pulled into the pits. So I'm assuming that maybe he abandoned that lap. Somebody does look like they're on quite a good improvement though, is Marlon, our pole sitter that had that drive-through at the Nürburgring. Where's he going to go? Up to P3 for Marlon, and as Tommy Razir has also, in the meantime, improved, as then it's immediately snatched away again by Karekas. So much back and forth between these guys at the moment. Karekas, the first driver to get into the 22s with a 22.940, very, very fast time there from him. But it's good to see.
Well, Karekas, he pitted, he returned to pits and is straight back out there, so he obviously thinks he can go faster.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a man on a mission today, isn't he? He's had decent performances so far at the last couple of races, obviously tying in the championship with Massoum for the time being, as we just go on board with James Cowley in the Lexus, see what he can do when he comes across the line. Will he improve? He does improve, but he is still in 24th for the time being. Cowley, I think, also not having the best start to his season either, so he'll be looking to hopefully get a decent result in today.
You said earlier on, sorry, I do apologise, carry on.
I was just going to say that in the chat I'm seeing someone saying that Goldsmacker will smash the competition today, and to mark their words. Well, Gregory Goldsmack at the moment currently sitting in 25th, but he is on a pretty big improvement by the looks of it. He's, I think, on about 6/10 up on his current time, which would see him start to edge towards the top 10. So this could also be a lie from my Delta, of course, depending on how the client is deciding to work, and he does, up to P13. So a good improvement there. Yeah, fantastic
improvement from him. As obviously there was hopefully these guys have had a little chance to practice, but the patch that came out yesterday, Gobsmacker obviously deciding that was good enough and he's going to return to the pits. There was an update which changed all the tow sort of settings, because there was a little bit of controversy going on with tow settings. Supposedly you could basically put maximum, I can't remember if it was tow out or tow in, I think it was tow out.
It was.
And it didn't have any negative effect on the tyres, with all the positives. So, I mean, good job that they've patched that out, has to be said, because obviously it put a massive advantage on certain cars. Oh, Goldsmacker down to 14th now. Climbs just jumped in front of him, I believe.
Yeah, I think also Antti Salonen in the number 11 McLaren, who we were just seeing finishing that last lap. He has improved into the top 10. So yes, unfortunately, Goldsmacker is dropping down the order slightly. Let's see who we've got on a lap. I think we've got Benjamin King finishing his effort at the moment. Benjamin King, our promotee from Tier 4 up to Tier 2, has had some solid performances. 24.36, not improving on his last time, but still pretty good effort there from Benjamin at the moment to see him in 23rd spot with just over 5 minutes of qualifying left to go. And I'm just going to jump on board with Marlon, actually, because he's finishing his lap. He looks like he might be a couple of tenths up, so this could be a pretty handy lap. And it is P1 provisional pole for Marlon. He was on pole at the Nürburgring, and then that was immediately taken away, not only by the drive-through penalty that he had before the race even started, but the contact with Massoum in the early stages saw him plummet down the order. And I can't remember if he DNF'd from that race or not, but he will be looking to make up for last week's outing, and that is certainly the way to start it. And it's fantastic to see a Ferrari topping the timesheets in what has been a little bit of a sea of McLarens amongst the grid and Brands Hatch. A very strong car combination, so a fantastic effort there from him.
Work out where he is in the championship. I think I'm just being incredibly blind and probably scrolled right past him. Oh my goodness, I am incredibly blind, aren't I? There it is. Okay, so Marlon, if that's who we're on about, is in 22nd position. He had an 8th in the first race, and then 34th at the Nürburgring.
Yes, so
not this last round, but as we saw that was because of the because he had penalties, didn't he, and stuff, I believe. So it wasn't the wasn't the best one. Oh, just noticed Caracas has taken back pole position from him, now with a 1:22.807. So he got knocked off, but not for very long. Obviously, Caracas showing he can consistently get into the 22s now. I mean, I'd probably be quaking in my boots if I was going up against him. I mean, I'd be scared if he was in a Citroen Saxo and I was in a GT3 car. He'd probably still outlap me. But I think the other guys obviously must see how well he can just consistently top the leaderboard.
Yeah, absolutely. And Marco Yonkers was on an improvement there, but he invalidated it somewhere along the lap. He was almost 0.2 of a second up, which would have seen him go quite firmly into P3, but could not quite put the lap together. And Brands Hatch can be such a tricky circuit to put these laps together. So when you're pushing that hard, really exploiting track limits, as there's a car pulled to the side there that's had a massive impact. We were just looking at Marco Yonkers, and I think, was it Shooter 80? I think it was, in currently sitting in 30th, not having a particularly good time, as the front of that BMW was looking very horribly damaged. But in the meantime, Marcin Olejars has gone up into P4, our pole sitter from Paul Ricard, who then dropped quite considerably down the order during the latter stages of that race, and I don't believe had a particularly strong showing for round 2, but making that McLaren Brands Hatch car combination work quite nicely and getting himself presumably for the time being up into the top 5. So a good little bit of redemption from him for the time being, with just under 2 minutes to go on the clock. So as Marco Yonkers actually then completes his lap and moves him down to P5. But yes, still very much looking like a strong McLaren field. But it's good to see other cars dotted around this top 10 pack, including the Bentley of Leonard Makovkin. So that very bright pink Bentley currently making its way through Graham Hill Bend, and he's got that up into P6 for the time being, which is pretty good effort there from Leonard.
Just having a quick look at the YouTube chat from, is it, I believe, Ike Guy. Apparently you can still run the tow, but there's no acceleration boost, and it's incredibly twitchy now, but it can still be run, so you can still technically run it, but obviously they've changed the way that it affects the car, so obviously not quite as much of an advantage to run it. He was also asking if we do some onboards. We don't usually use the actual in-game cameras. I know we can do the onboard. I always forget which number it is. Is it onboard number 2? I think gives us quite a good dash image. Or you'd have to give it onboard 0, and you can get a little bit of the wheel image as well. But we don't tend to actually use the sort of in-game cameras.
So I've just put us on board temporarily with Marco Yonkers, who just improved on his best time. Wasn't quite good enough, as we then get a very nice view of him sending it straight into the wall at turn 1. That looks like that will be his qualifying session done. It was an improvement, but it wasn't quite good enough, as somehow I've ended up on the helicam. Let's move that across to there. There we go. Yes, unfortunately, I am having to do this all on one single monitor, so if there are occasional bits of issues with some of the cameras, then that's usually because things are going awry on my screen. But we are back with some pretty decent cameras, having a look at Marlon, who currently still sitting... Oh, and he's spun on the exit of Dingledale Corner, so that will be his qualifying session over there. Who else have we got that is currently on a lap? Number 177. Who is that? That is Shooter 80, looking to see if he can try to improve his time just a bit. Will run on board through the final corner, taking the short line to the finish, and as he crosses the line, it will be a 24.695, and unfortunately that won't be an overall improvement for him. Let's see who else we've got running towards the line. Makovkin, currently in P6. He's looking to try to improve if he can. And as he comes to the line, I think he actually backed off before the finish line there. So a 23.8 from him. And I think our final car coming to the line is Ben Keys in the number 203 Ferrari, and he stays in P10. But that will be it then. But a pretty good mixture then for our top 10 finishers from that qualifying session.
Yeah, it's a really nice selection of cars there. Let's have a quick look at the old timetables for you, and we can hopefully give you some more in-depth info. So, Caracas, who is actually our pole driver, hasn't got any fastest sectors anymore. We've got Marlon Andrade. He has sector 2 and 3 to his name. Was I reading that right? Yes, I was. And then Rosier has sector 2 as his fastest. So these guys have it in the bag to outlap. Oh, 50 car penalties are starting to come in now as well. These will be penalties for the previous races that are starting to roll in. So we'll read them out as they come. But yeah, interesting to see that the fastest lap doesn't contain any of the fastest sectors. So, I mean, it barely seems possible, does it?
It's not exactly something we see very often, but this is why I refer to Grantis Caracas as Mr. Consistency, because this is exactly what he does. He's maybe not always the outright fastest guy. He is incredibly quick, but he may not always be the outright fastest guy on the circuit, but he just keeps on doing what he needs to do and puts in pretty consistent stellar performances week in, week out, and that's what quite often makes him someone that we're just used to seeing being at the pointy end of the field. So yes, seeing a couple of those penalties rolling in. Makovkin, unfortunately, our lead Bentley in P6, a 30-second time penalty for him, so that's going to be very detrimental to his race. And Vioris, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the anime looking car that we highlighted from last week, as it is has also got a 30-second time penalty as well. We've got Polyakov down in 24th with a 45-second penalty. I can't see his Porsche. He is hidden behind a sea of BMWs, but he is there. And I think Polyakov, unless I'm mistaken, was our driver that stayed out for an absurd amount of time during the Nürburgring and didn't pit until something like 15 minutes to go. It wasn't a strategy that particularly benefited him, but I appreciated the mentality behind it, considering my own previous failings at the Nürburgring, which we won't repeat. But it was good to see someone trying something a bit different. It was a bold strategy, wasn't it? It was worth a risk. It was worth trying to see if it worked. It didn't work in his favour this time. But who knows? Maybe we're going to see it again. Are we going to see a really late strategy from him again? Who knows? I mean, he's going to have to do something pretty special if he wants to get a good result from that 45-second penalty. But with just over a minute on the clock then before we get going, let's run through the grid. So, Tim, would you like to start off by doing the honours? Okie dokie. Right, so on pole we have Grantis Caracas in the 119 McLaren. I couldn't think of the words. It's a good start. Marlon Andrade in second position in the 742 Ferrari. Really good to see a Ferrari mixing up at the front. Then we have Tommy Rosier, who is in third position in the number 2 McLaren. Then we have Marco Yonkers in the number 3 McLaren in fourth position. And rounding out the top 5, we have Marcin Oliyars, and he is in the number 21 McLaren. So that's the top 5. And then carrying on, I've just clicked a button and now I can't click anything for some reason. Standard stuff. 20 seconds. So in 6th, we have Makovkin. He is in car number 57. Then we have fan favourite Meerveld in 7th. That's car number 29. Dennis Latz, who is... Is that? Oh, yeah. Well, my timing screen, he's showing up as something rather odd for some reason. No idea why. Dennis Latz, he is in 8th position, car number 48. Then we have Jan Garbus in 9th. He is car number 45. Ben Keys rounding up the top 10 in car number 203. And the cars are just starting to get rolling. Do you want me to carry on with the numbers? Yeah, go for it. Okie dokie. Yuko Terminen. He's in the pit. So, for some reason, he should have been in 11th position, but is starting from the pit. I believe he didn't select drive in time. I think that's that is an absolutely cataclysmic error from Terminen there. I was actually going to say that he'd done a good job to get that Lexus just outside the top 10, but I believe that is what happens when you don't select the drive before the counter goes down. So he will be starting from the pit lane. He's not out of the race entirely, but that is a massive dampener to his race. But who knows? Maybe it could be a blessing in disguise. If there's chaos on the first lap, he might just be able to avoid it purely by being nowhere near it. So yes, a rather big and unfortunate error there from Terminen.
So carrying on, and someone who has inherited a position straight away is Matt York, now in 11th place, car number 65. Then Salonen in 12th position, car number 11. And then we've got Wajoris, who is in car number 107, down in 13th place. Connor Wright in 14th place, and Dylan Goslin rounding out the top 15. So carrying on through, and we've got Jay Fang down in 16th place, Climbs 17th position, David Mame in 18th place, Gregory Gobsmacker, who we have been assured is going to smash the competition, hopefully in the timings, not in a lap 1 incident. Who knows here at Brands Hatch. He's running in 17th. Steinhauser, who was a real shining star last season, all the way down in 20th place, obviously not enjoying the circuit that much. Roof in 21st position, Muscat in 22nd, Polikov obviously also got a penalty in 23rd, Yang Gang in 24th, Totev in 25th, James Cowley 26th, Yaroboski 27th, Benjamin King 28th. I'm going quickly now because I'm running out of lap. Shooter 80 in 29th, and Terminen obviously will now be starting from 30th position and from the pit, so he hasn't had a lap to warm his tyres. But to be fair, looking at the track temperature of 40, that might not be the end of the world for him. He might somehow get one more lap compared to everyone else out of these tyres now.
Yes, very well potentially, as the cars are approaching the start line, then everyone sitting line astern waiting for the lights to go, and they are away. It looks like a good start from Krekis, already pulling away from Marlon, who has to cover off Razir. Razir firmly on his gearbox as Yonkers looks to go a bit wide. Oliar's down the inside of him already as they head towards Druids, looking fairly neat and tidy so far. I haven't seen any collisions as of yet. Looks like these front guys are fairly well sorted, as Makovkin and Mirveld are getting close together. Makovkin fighting that a little bit potentially unnecessarily considering his penalty, but he still has a right, as Oliars has then gone off ahead of Yonkers, so those guys are going to be looking to go side by side, as well as Razir and Andrade. So we've got side by side action already going towards Hawthorne Bend. It looks like that's going to continue on to Westfield if Razir doesn't get the nose chopped off the front of his car. Marlon just about managing to hang on to it, but they're still looking pretty dicey between those two. I think they are going to finish that battle, but there's contact between Yonkers and Oliars. There's a car off. I think that's Garbus in the background. We've got Makovkin pushing Yonkers off as well, and it is all kicking off on this first lap, but no major catastrophes.
Can Oliars take it back from Yonkers under braking? Yes, he can. Dives up the inside. Oh, and a big slide then from Makovkin, who managed to shut the door on Mirveld. Just about got it done, but what was close. But got to be said, really good first lap from everyone. I didn't see anyone go off or any yellow flags, so really good. But I don't know if you can see, but if you look at the timing screen, the track map, to get an idea of how bad that starting from the pit was, car number 14 crossing the line now. So he is nearly the full length of Sector 1 behind the leaders. So that is a massive, massive game of catch-up he is going to be playing.
Yeah, that was an absolutely disastrous error for him to make. But I tell you what, somebody who has had quite a dream start is Korekes. All that battle really played into his hands. Looking down the field, though, towards Dylan Goslin and Christian Steinhauser as they come towards Hawthorne Bend. There was a bit of side-by-side action. Steinhauser, can he get the cutback? No, we've also got Yannick Ruoff And Porsche's round. I think that's Climbs. Just about held on to it. Fantastic recovery from him there. But yeah, I think Yannick Ruoff just tagged him slightly, but now Climbs trying to hold the inside. That's really difficult to go through there. There's contact then on, I think that might have been Goldsmacker behind him, and another one of the Porsches. Thankfully, everyone managing to keep it at least pointing in the right direction. We've also got Cowley and Totev, I think that is, going side by side into the final corner. That's going to be a drag race towards the first corner. The Lexus powered by the V8. Can it get the legs on that BMW? That BMW is surprisingly quick on the straights. I think Totev's going to hold it around the outside potentially, and it looks like he has kept that position for now. Oh, there's a Lamborghini and Shooter. I think that's Yazabowski and Shooter off at turn 1. I didn't see how that contact happened. We've got our first casualty as then Terminen comes flying into our picture, unassisted, going off at turn 1, but he has now gained his first position of the race, which I'm sure that he'll be fairly pleased about. But yes, contact going on in a few places up and down the field, but remaining somewhat clean amongst our drivers overall.
So, just gone back and watched the replay of that incident. It looked like Shooter 80 tried to go up the inside of that Lamborghini into turn 1, just slightly outbraked himself and just tagged the back of it. And he actually, the reason why he'd stopped, he was letting the Lamborghini recover. So I think that was Yarabowski. So he let him recover back onto the circuit at that point. So now Shooter 80 is in stone dead last in 30th position. But yeah, obviously just a slight racing mistake, but to avoid any sort of penalties, he completely backed off. So fair play to him on that point where he realised his mistake and sort of calmed down slightly. But he's got a lot of catch up to do now. He's really dropped back.
Yeah, absolutely. Shooter 80, a long-standing coordinator, I believe, for AOR, so you would expect nothing else than the highest sort of respect from him. I think we might have a battle at the back a bit with Terminen and Yazabowski for that 29th position. Terminen, you would think, would have quite the pace advantage, looking to try to go around the outside at Druids, but can't make anything work for the time being. Karekas has been able to pull away quite nicely at the front. He is still lapping quite consistently faster than the guys behind him, the only driver so far to make it into the 23, so this has been quite a nice start from him. Looks like that battle between Terminen and Yazabowski has calmed down for the time being. Let's have a look at Yang Climbs. I see some gravel from the Audi of Sheldon Muscat ahead of him. Climbs trying to recover after that collision with, I think it was Yannick Ruoff on the last lap. He has got Yan Gang firmly glued to his gearbox, so he is trying to make sure that he doesn't get overtaken and lose any more spots. But yeah, a lot of close battles on the circuit, but no one at the moment quite seemingly in a position to make an overtake.
Very difficult circuit to pass on though, isn't it? I mean, there's lots of places, if you're brave, you can go up the inside of turn 1, but you've really got to get there quick. And even then, who knows, you never know if the person... Oh, mistake from Climbs, a little bit too much inside curb, a lot of oversteer, loses another position there. I believe that's J Gang gets through, Jang Gang gets through, so that's another position lost for Climbs. And he'll be probably pretty upset at this point. He's dropped back quite a long way from where he started. Someone who's made some forward progress is Matt York. Obviously, originally qualified in 12th, inherited 11th position after the... whose car was that? That was... Oh, I should know this off the top of my head. Terminen, obviously, he forgot to press start and ended up in the pits. But he's now up to 9th place. So, making some reasonable pace. He's pretty similar time to everyone around him. He's still in the 24s at the moment, but as a deep sort of seems to be moving in the right direction, so he'll be hoping for a top 10 finish if he can hold it together.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're just looking at the battle between Polyakov and Yannick Ruoff, as Polyakov may be trying to avenge his Porsche compatriot of Climbs after that contact. Earlier was firmly on the gearbox of the Aston, But you can see that Aston just stretched his legs a little bit down the start-finish straight. The Porsche does struggle in a straight line, but it should be fairly quick in this next series of corners, making use of that acceleration from the flat 6 in that car. But also just keeping an eye on other things at the front. Last lap, Marlon Andrade did a... Excuse me, not last lap, 2 laps ago, did a 23.637, which was only 100th of a second faster than Correct's fastest lap, but it was good enough to get the fastest lap of the race. But not able to make too much of an inroad into that gap at the front.
He slid off behind him, big power slide, managed to hold it together, hasn't lost any positions. Sorry, had to quickly butt in on that one and say...
Who was that?
He was in the back of the shot. Razier in the number 2 McLaren, currently running in 3rd. He was pushing on the back of Andrade reasonably, and then he went off on the grass. I think that would have been... Ooh, which one would that turn would that have been? Let's try and work it out quickly. Have a look at the old thing. That would have been, I want to say Dingledale, or possibly the exit of Sterling's. Big power slide across the grass. He did manage to save it and hasn't lost any positions, but Oliyar's significantly closer than he was before.
Yes, it's amazing how quickly at the circuit it can all start to go wrong. You're always pushing the limits so hard, making extreme amounts of use of the runoff, where you're borderline driving on the grass on a lot of these corner exits. But the game, the way that the grip manifests itself on those lines, is still good enough for you to benefit from that extra use of the runoff. But it can lead in disaster. Matt York finding that out a little bit there, as he ran probably a bit wider than he was intending to, under a bit of pressure from Jan Garbus at the moment, but managing to keep that Bentley in 9th place for now. But it does look like that Garbus is significantly faster through Dingledale Corner, and has got quite a nice run on him as they head towards Clark Curve. Is he going to be able to make use of that McLaren straight line speed with the toe of that Bentley? Bentley putting a massive hole.
It's a really big toe.
Yeah, it's a big... Oh, in the background, I think that was Salonen and Vioris that were going side by side. I'm not sure if that was a change of position, but they were battling side by side on the run up towards turn 1. Salonen having to be a little bit defensive as they go through Druids. We've now got Connor Wright firmly on the gearbox of our favourite anime Bentley, and there is now a bit of a 3-way tussle going on for 12th position, as Connor Wright looking left, looking right, Vioris covering, though sitting in the middle of the track now. Can Connor Wright get a cut back up the hill? That looked like a really nice exit there from Connor, and we've seen that this M4 has some pretty good straight line speed. Vioris feeling the pressure, defending the inside towards Hawthorne Bend. Don't think... Oh, it was the tiniest fraction of contact there. We saw it all go wrong in Tier 1 yesterday between Niels Niox and I think it was the Nissan GTR of... I can't remember the name of the Russian driver in Tier 1, but thankfully no such consequences between those two. But that has allowed Salonen to... Oh, I say Salonen to break away a little bit, as he then runs off massively at Sterling's corner, and those gaps will inevitably close up a little bit again. But for now, that looks like that fight is going to settle as is.
Yeah, it looks like it's calmed a little bit. Having a quick look at the chat. Where are we looking here? Hey guys, just wanted to tell you we're doing a supreme job for putting this on, for putting on this quality content together. For unfortunately so few viewers, keep on going. Yeah, not as many viewers as Tier 1, but you know, they haven't been, the Tier 2 streams. It's a new team. We're still working it out. So hopefully, you know, more people will join in. We get plenty of after views, not as many live views, because obviously Tier 1 have got the big YouTube racers and the big boffins, haven't they? So, but we don't have them. But what we do have is significantly cleaner racing, I would say, with relatively the same pace. And I would argue that possibly the Tier 1 drivers would probably have the same kind of times as the Tier 2 drivers if they weren't so on the ragged edge and kind of bumping into each other quite so much. So I'll come out and say it. Tier 2 is just better in every way. You know, first the worst, second the best. So that's what I'm going to say on that one. Here's another one.
Sorry to cut you off there. We're just looking at what was a 3 to 4-way battle for 21st place as Jan Climbs went off going through. I think that was on the exit of Hawthorne, but we've now got Yan Gang firmly on the back of Sheldon Muscat, who's looking like he might be struggling not just for pace but grip as Yan Climbs has a huge moment, and he doesn't get it out of the wall. That is just going from bad to worse there for Jan Climbs. He was pushing extremely hard, maybe that Porsche just being a little bit tail happy in a few areas of the circuit, but looking back towards that battle, Muscat defending from Jan Gang, had to go quite defensive on the inside towards turn 1. Jan can't do anything as they head towards Druids, but can he use that drive from the Porsche on the exit? Probably a little bit too far away for now, but we did see him get very close last time. That's a wonky line there, actually caught Gang off guard for a second there, and he's now coming under pressure from Gossmacher, who we are still waiting to smash everybody, but as of yet not doing so quite, but maybe we will see a run from him now. That Porsche is going to be struggling for top speed as they head up towards the hill, looking to go around the outside towards Hawthorne Bend. So difficult to make a move happen there. You have to really be very firmly alongside a car if you're going to try to make it work up there, and the way the Brands Hatch just sets up these battles, it's so difficult that unless you get to that inside line first, it's incredibly difficult to make a move, as he then runs wide through Dingledale Corner, just about manages to keep it all together. But you can see how hard these guys are pushing and how close to the ragged edge they are, but just not pushing it quite as far beyond the limit as sometimes we see in Tier 1.
Not pushing into each other.
Yes, we do see significantly more finishers in Tier 2, I believe, relative to how many we start with. I think we still have all 30 cars actually on the circuit, which I think is more cars than we had by the end of lap 1, when there was about 40 starters yesterday, so a pretty good yield from our Tier 2 lobby.
Quick update on Climbs. I went back on the replay and had a quick look. It looked like he got a little bit of oversteer, ended up on the grass just a tiny little bit, but obviously lost a lot of straight line speed. And then, yeah, as you said, as he then came through Stirling's onto clearways, again, a little of the back end of the car stepped out, and then I've watched it as he was then, after his recovery, it does look like the back end of his Porsche is very loose. So whether that's overheating tyres possibly, I mean the track temp is 41, which is mighty hot out there. Oh, look up the inside there from Yang Gang, I think. Sorry, can't remember if you're watching the same as me.
I am, fortunately, because I was looking at that getting quite spicy. So yes, great intuition there.
And also having a little bit more of a look at the chat. Who have we got? This is Joshua Allen saying, hello everyone, go on Vince. So there we go, Meerveld, fan favourite.
I think that might have just been an error on the timing board. For a second it looked like Jay Fang was slipping down the order, but I don't think that's the case. I think it says everyone's coming across the line. But yes, good to see Joshua in the chat, teammate to Vince van Meerveld, and was our lone interviewee last week, which we're very grateful for. So it's unfortunate that he is not racing tonight, but it's good to see that he is still getting involved in the chat. Hopefully he'll be back for another British circuit next week of Donington, which the McLaren should be again pretty well suited for. But in the meantime, still just keeping an eye on these fights between Muscat and Gang. We've also got Gossmacher that's coming under increasing pressure from Totev and Cowley. I think that was actually contact there between Totev and Gossmacher. I think, yeah, Gossmacher is off at Hawthorne Bend. That might be him retiring the car there. I think Cowley has got in front of Totev as a result. Totev just misjudging his entry towards Hawthorne, just getting a bit too keen and greedy with that slipstream and just made the slightest amount of contact there with Gossmacher. So unfortunately, it was not Gossmacher that smashed the competition, it was Gossmacher that has unfortunately been smashed. So unfortunately the prediction there, almost the equivalent of a commentator's curse from the YouTube chat. But that is unfortunately, I think, Yes, I can't click on Gobsmacker's car anymore, so that is him done. In the meantime, I think Dennis Latz may have done his pit stop, because his last time was 2 minutes 15. He is now currently down in 29th place, so he's going for a massive undercut and hoping that that will give him some clear air to make his way up the field. But that is quite an aggressive strategy.
It is indeed, and it was a intentional early pit. He didn't have any damage, so he just pitted all of his own accord. And also, I think Meerveld, has he just pit? What's gone on with Meerveld? Yeah, Meerveld has also just completed his pit as well. So another guy going for a real early pit. I wonder if they're doing it to come out in clean air, because Dennis Latz, he came out into completely empty circuit. I don't know that he's done a flyer yet, though. I think this will be his first flyer now, possibly. But he's actually in the pit, and he is still behind Meerveld. So Meerveld managed to get his stop and come out again. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to defend it. He is. He's managing to hold on to it. So this is now the battle for 28th position. Our two cars that have pitted. Bunch of people coming into the pits. Garbus, Roof, and King all in the pits.
Yeah, so it's all happening very early, but we did see this backfire a little bit yesterday in Tier 1. It is going to allow these guys to have extremely good pace relative to people around them that haven't pitted, but we saw George Boothby was able to make a huge undercut and get himself up into the provisional lead, but the amount of tyre wear that he suffered with later on in the race was absolutely massive, and eventually it did lead to unfortunately some contact between him and McCormack, and he was just about able to hold on to P2, but he had to fight extremely hard for it. So the undercut, incredibly powerful, but a very dangerous strategy, and with the way that some of these cars of the likes of Climbs and some other drivers as well, where they seem to be a bit loose in how they're driving, it's a risk which may not end up paying off in the long run. Looking at fights that are going on though, we've got Salonen and Ben Keys going towards turn 1 now. Salonen trying to go around the outside of Ben Keys, but I don't think there's too much grip all the way out there, and he will have to back out of that one for the time being. Ben Keys just holding that inside line, but we have seen that McLaren be very fast in a straight line, so if he can close back onto the gearbox of Ben Keys before they head up towards Hawthorne Bend, then he might just be able to get a good enough tow up the hill to make a run. But that has been quite a terrible line there through Surtees for him, and in actual fact, if anything, he's going to be under immense amount of pressure now from Vioris in that Bentley, who things about a move just isn't quite close enough as they head through Hawthorne, and if he keeps it all neat and tidy, Salonen, then he should be able to hold on to that for now. But it's amazing how quickly you can go from being the hunter to being the hunted.
Oh, car number 451. Who is that? That is
Dylan Gosling.
Yeah, he is. I just looked at the yellow flag.
Yeah, he's rejoining.
Yeah, he is moving again. Speaking of the undercut strategy, obviously the idea is you can get yourself in some nice, quiet track position, put in some great laps. Because Meerveld came out the pit right in front of Dennis Latz, they are instantly battling. They've been fighting immediately. So their actual lap times are still in the sort of mid-24s. So not great for these guys.
Sorry to cut you off. I'm slightly confused as to what's going on here. We've got Matt York, Marco Jonkers and Martin Oliars all battling extremely hard for position, but the pink Bentley of Leonard McCoffkin, who on my timing screens is down in 29th, I believe because that penalty, he is fighting extremely hard and got all sorts of crossed up with these guys. He is strictly a back marker, I believe, in this fight, and he should not really be doing this. He's also got his, ironically, his hazard lights flashing. I suppose he is raising awareness that as of right now he is a bit of a hazard on track with the way he's responding to what will be some very aggressively waved blue flags. But yeah, he got right in the middle of that battle where Olyars and Yonkers were side by side through turn 1. You had the Bentley that just pitted. As Olyars has come into the pits, you've now got Makovkin, who's looking to try to unlap himself from Yonkers. I think he will be able to do it. Obviously, Makovkin on much fresher tyres, hence his sense of urgency to get past, but you do have to be careful as a back marker not to push your luck too much, because if you can't make that pass very quickly and cleanly and get out of the way of other fights that are going on, then you are going to have some very angry stewards inquiries after the race.
Matt York off in the back. It looks like he recovered it. Where was he coming through? I want to say that was through, I think it was Surtees? No.
I think it was Graham Hill's Bend, I think, potentially on the exit. I didn't see the moment, but based on when we jumped back on board with him, I think it would be on the exit of Graham Hill Bend.
Quite possibly. So other guys that have pitted now, car number 742, which is Andrad. He's completed his stop. Olyars. Who else is in there still? Jay Fang, Steinhauser and Polakov all in the pit as we speak. So a whole bunch of cars now have completed it with 36 minutes left on the clock.
Sorry to cut you off there. Olyars, and I'm not sure who this other McLaren is. The number 19, I think, if I read the number right. My timing screen isn't working fantastically there. I'm trying to work out who that is in the car ahead of him, but went down into Druids and drove straight into the back of him. That is the... I can't catch the number of the car ahead. Is that Jan Garbus? I think
it was Garbus.
It might be.
Big shunt, isn't it? Yeah, that's a big old knot.
Yeah, he absolutely drove Olyars basically off the circuit. Yeah, he didn't push him off entirely, but kind of used him as a bit of a break there. Olyars did defend quite aggressively to the inside line, but he was entitled to do so. So a bit of a misjudgment there, I think, from Garbus, and I imagine that Olyars won't be too happy about that. And that is not going to help his attempt at the undercut strategy to try to gain some time on the guys that he was fighting around, the likes of Yonkers and Matt York. So that might end up costing him potentially quite dearly. But yeah, definitely getting quite busy with some of these guys, as looking at Tommy Razier, and I think that is Marlon Andrade. Tommy looking like he is trying to hold off Marlon there, and I think they may have swapped positions, because I believe they were running with Marlon in P2 and Tommy in P3 before the pit stops. Yeah. So I didn't see the order in which they did those stops, but one way or another, it looks like for the time being that Tommy Razier has managed to get himself into what is effectively P2. As meanwhile, our race leader, we've got some more pit stops coming in. We've got Korekis, Keys, and Salonen all in the pit. Salonen was battling quite heavily with Robert Villora, so it'll be interesting to see what happens when they do their stops. But let's jump on board with that fight between Razier and Marlon. See whereabouts Korekis appears for these guys as he completes his pit stop. So we'll actually hop completely on board with Razier. But all starting to kick off now, and the majority of people have already done their pit stops before we've even got to the halfway point of this race.
Yeah, quick update on the Andrade position. He did a really early pit stop and came out just behind Meerveld. At some point he's managed to get back past Meerveld. But yes, Razier has gained a position, as early on in the race we saw Razier go off with a big power slide on the grass in Sector 3 and lost a bit of ground. So that undercut has not worked for Andrade. He, I think, battling with Meerveld straight out the pits, immediately sort of slowed him down, the two of them squabbling slightly. So even though he's obviously now got past Meerveld, it has negatively affected his race. He's currently running in 9th. I mean, he is 3rd of the pitted cars, so it would make sense that he will go up to 3rd if he can keep going, but currently Razier is pulling away from him, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like that's calmed down now.
Brazier 0.5 up on his last lap. I mean, his last lap was a 1:28, so kind of understandable that he should be getting up quite quick. And I don't think that timing board for me is quite right, saying he's only 0.9. I think he's probably a lot quicker. But they're coming up on back markers into Clark Curve. Not where you want to be slowing down to go offline. To be fair, the BMW dives into the pits, so not sure who that was.
I think we've had our remaining guys come into the pits now as well. Matt York is going to be emerging from the pits, so it'll be interesting to see where he comes out. He was right in the middle of that battle with Oliars and Yonkers, I think, and I believe that might be the likes of Oliars ahead of him. Waiting for the timing board to update. Yes, it looks like Garbus and Oliars have got ahead of him and got quite a considerable gap, but we'll have to see how that closes up, because obviously Matt York's tyres will be quite a bit fresher, so we'll see if he can close any of that down. And where has the Urus come out of the pits, because he was in quite a fight before he pitted. Oh, there he is. I couldn't find him on my timing screen at all. So he is quite a way down in 25th position and doesn't really seem to be around anybody at the moment. So I'm not entirely sure how that came about. But in the meantime, Makovkin and Totev now going side by side. This is for position now. So this is Makovkin trying to make a charge as they're making contact up the straight. You've got to be very careful not to squeeze your opponent as you head towards Hawthorne Bend. He does manage to out-drag the BMW. Bentley looking actually has really quite a nice amount of power. That torquey V8 managing to pull its way up the hill. And Makovkin with that better pace advantage. He qualified in P6 but had that penalty to serve. Is definitely a driver that is on the move and is not hanging about for anybody. So still with the flashing hazard lights. I don't think he entirely needs those on now, but at least if the bright pink livery wasn't enough to signal his location, the hazard lights will raise some additional awareness.
Well, I mean, I don't think he really needs the extra visibility. Let's be brutally honest, he is incredibly bright. It was pretty close, wasn't it, going on early in that last lap. So hopefully, well, I mean, to be honest, Makovkin's really pulled away. Oh, and a mistake there from Top Tim, really deep there into Druids. So a bit of a mistake. Yonkers, who was in pole, is now in the pit. So Terminen may inherit the lead. I think he's probably going to in a moment. Let's just wait and see.
He does.
Yeah, there we go, coming across the line now.
So from starting from the pit lane, he shall lead one lap of this race.
I mean, got to be done, isn't it? This is where you get your screenshot for your thumbnail. This is where you quickly get your screenshot done.
Always a positive.
Fastest lap of this session so far. So that's a 1:23.1 he has just put in. So Caracas not hanging around. And actually, if you look on track, Caracas, who has completed his pit stop, he is right on the back of Terminen. So very, very soon, Caracas is going to be catching up with the back of Terminen. And technically, Terminen doesn't have to get out the way. This is for position. So Caracas is going to be hoping to get past Terminen pretty quickly and sort of incident-free, I would presume, because Terminen still needs to do his pit, so he is definitely going to lose this first place. But until he pits, he is more than sort of allowed to...
absolutely.
Should be able to sort of defend his position. Sorry, I was just looking in the chat. Can you change the timings to show who's stopped? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know how to bring that up onto the broadcast, I'm afraid.
No, hang on, I'll experiment on my end. I believe if you press the letter I while on... Yes, if you press the letter I while you're on Assetto Corsa, it should pop up on the left-hand side of the screen.
I would do. However, I'm slightly concerned about transitioning, considering that I'm in windowed mode. At the moment, but what I will say is that Terminen has come into the pit, so I believe that now everyone has pitted. So
Yes.
I think
Everyone.
that at least to answer the question, I think now everyone is pitted. So we'll see where Terminal emerges. You'd have to imagine it's going to be quite far down the order, but yes, I do believe now that everyone is on a level playing field as such. We did see on the previous lap that Makovkin, still on a charge, got past Sheldon Muscat, and he is charging away. We've got Totev now putting Muscat under a lot of pressure. We'll just see where Terminen emerges out the pits. He is ahead of Jan Klimes, but is fundamentally quite alone on track for the time being. So we'll see if he can put in a mighty stint on those fresher tyres for this latter portion of the race. I think there's quite a hefty battle going on between Connor Wright and Ben Keys at the moment as they come charging through Dingledale Corner. That trio has let Salonen run away just a little bit. They were bunched up a bit more a couple of laps ago, but Connor Wright dropping away a bit from Salonen, but Ben Keys firmly sticking with that life jacket, not life jacket, high-vis jacket rear end of the BMW, and he'll be looking to see if he can make a move at some point, but that battle still raging on.
Who was that? Car number 15. Car number 15.
That's Muscat, who is now reversing across the circuit. He needs to get out of the way very quickly to make sure he doesn't end up causing too much inconvenience, as that's Terminen and Klimes going past. Yeah, seemingly, I'm not sure how that happened, but I'm assuming lost it on the exit Sterling's.
Watching back to see what happened.
He was under a lot of pressure from Totev at the time, so was it an unforced error?
Right, yeah, it was unforced. Basically, he went right out to the outside edge before going into Sterling's and just put one tyre on the grass and missed his turn-in, which then obviously just meant that he never made it right the way to the apex, went out a little bit wide on the exit, and it just power slid. So yeah, completely unassisted, just a little bit of a driving error. Just for a quick update for everyone, I'll be as quick as I can to avoid talking over anything too much. Massive shout out to our lead commentator this evening, John, for saving the day, as it turns out the new liveries have completely ruined my PC. And I normally I'd run everything behind this, you know, I'd be running the cameras and everything and running the stream, but as it turns out, for some reason it just annihilated my CPU. So while I'm waiting for new bits to get mine back up and running, John very kindly got everything up together in very limited time. And like you say, you're in your uni accommodation, aren't you? So you have very limited space, only one monitor, and so I think it is, you know, a massive round of applause to you, to be honest, for getting it up together and going and sort of doing what you're doing. So yeah, massively appreciated. I want it to be known that John fully saved the day. So we had some issues last week where I had some frame rate drops, and then I tried it again, and it's just...
I'm sorry to cut you off, because it's lovely all the compliments, but I think Jarzabowski, I just saw a yellow flag pop up there, and I think he has just retired to the pits, and it looks like he won't be doing anything further. I think he went off on the exit of Dingledale and then just retired to the pits there.
I think he has completely left now. I was on him in the pits.
Oh, sorry, got you off again. Ben Keys putting Connor Wright under pressure and couldn't quite follow him nicely through Dingledale Corner and just went off himself. So that was a battle that was looking like it was going to be hotting up. But nothing for the time being, as I've now dropped back to the likes of Cowley, and I think David Mamet is round in Dingledale. It was all getting pretty stacked up there with Cowley, Mamet and Benjamin King, and the consequences of all of that battling has sent Mamet round, so he has dropped down the order, hit the wall as well, so he is not going to be too happy about that. So in the space of a few moments, quite a few settled battles have resulted in cars going off left, right and centre, and complete chaos unfolding. But yes, so now that seemingly the action has calmed down briefly for the time being, thank you very much for the kind words, it's much appreciated, and hopefully all is working well and producing a good stream for everyone to watch at home. So yes, my absolute pleasure to step in and do this, and we've had a pretty good race so far, approaching the sort of 2/3 mark of the race so far, and everyone's done their pit stops a lot earlier than we generally saw throughout Tier 1 yesterday. So everyone on a level, pretty level playing field, but still having a lot of very hard battles fighting on track.
Oh, is this Masoom I'm seeing in the chat?
I believe it is.
Wish I could race today, but my new wheel hasn't arrived. Ow! Devastating! I mean, you probably don't want to see who's on pole then, if we're brutally honest. Real shame to not see you on track this evening. I say, obviously, you are currently, before this race, tied at the lead with Caracas, so I'm sure you can bring it back. I say, your pace on track has been phenomenal, and the racing you've put on has been fantastic, so real shame to not see you out there this evening. Quick one, Caracas, before all the pits, I believe here's the smallest gap I saw between him and second place was around 2.5 seconds. In this second stint, so after his pit stops, he's now opened it up to 4.5 seconds to Tommy Rozier. So he has found some phenomenal pace in this second half.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the benefit of pitting that much later. I mean, last lap round, he's about 2/10 up on Rozier, 6/10 up on Marlon. So Marlon struggling for pace quite a bit on that last lap. But yeah, the fresher tyres, and when you're on the light fuel, it can be a huge benefit. In the meantime, we've jumped back to the likes of Mame and Totev, who look like they came together a bit earlier, as Goslin has cut through the grass completely there. And Mame has slowed right down. I didn't quite... Mame must have gone into the wall. Somehow amongst those camera angles, I didn't quite see what happened to David Mame in that 1111 BMW, but the front of that car is completely smashed in now. And it's just gone from bad to worse for the French driver. I don't know if you'll be able to deduce a bit better what happened there, but that looks like he is going to be retiring.
Yeah, really big hit. That was back at... I want to say that was in the Dingle Dell complex. Oh no, Westfield, sorry. I think there was a mistake at Hawthorne, which then has brought it around to Westfield. Then he looked like he missed the apex and went very wide, and he absolutely nailed the curb. I want to say it was... I mean, what's that Dingle Dell? Really hard to see, obviously, because I cut back, so I didn't have my track map up. But yeah, he took on massive damage. And one of the Bentleys, I'm not sure which number it was, going very, very, having to go well off track to avoid any incidents. So, I mean, well avoided by everyone else. But yeah, sadly, that was, I think that's probably where he was carrying damage from the previous incident, where he also went into the barrier.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate for him. So that's a series of events going from bad to worse for him. We've got Cowley coming from under increasing pressure from Yan Gang, who's been trying to put a move on that Lexus for a long time, and this is about the closest I've seen him be. Can he get good drive and use that slipstream off the Lexus? That Lexus is very fast on the straight, so then the Porsche just doesn't quite have the grunt to be able to get past. But closing up very quickly behind them is the charging bright pink Bentley of McCoffin, and we've seen him put some pretty daring moves on. That was really close to contact through the middle of Drury's there between McCoffin and Yan Gang, but just about managing to keep it clean, as then Yang goes slightly wide on the exit. That Porsche might be vulnerable as they head up towards Hawthorne Bends, because McCoffin is looking very fast. That Bentley was extremely fast up the hill earlier, and the Porsche is already hanging a little bit in the middle of the track. But McCoffin thinks about a very late dive towards the inside. I think that was just a bit of a fake move there to try to put him under pressure. But these three guys all very quickly closing in on Benjamin King as well, who, has to be said, Benjamin King currently sitting in P15. Whether or not he manages to hold on to that position to the end of the race, we shall have to wait and see. But overall, that is a very strong effort from him but I've just had to jump ahead now to Jay Fang and Yannick Ruoff, who are going side by side on the exit of turn 1. Fang now has the inside towards Druid. We haven't seen a move go here just yet, but can he make that one work? The Aston not the best acceleration. Can he get the drag race towards Graham Hill Ben? I'm not sure, because Fang still has that inside. Lovely side-by-side action as he goes very wide on the exit, but I think Ruoff might have it done. He covers the inside, and unless he gets a poor line through Surtees, or he wasn't the best, he might come under pressure from Fang as they head up towards Hawthorne. That BMW isn't the fastest in a straight line, but it's not too bad. Can he get enough of a toe to make a move? No, I don't think so. Yannick Ruoff does look like he has managed to make that one stick, although that was a great amount of speed carried through that series of corners. Fang constantly trying to make my constantly trying to make me eat my words there and make a move to reclaim that P12 position, but it does look like, as he then runs a little bit wide through Sterling's, that might be it for that duel. But fantastic side-by-side action there between those two drivers.
Battle possibly hotting up for 6th place between Garbus and Yonkers. That's getting quite close. And actually, Matt York closing up on the back of these two as well into Druids really quickly. So this is the 6th place battle. There's 3 of them in it at the moment. Good question. When did Meerveld get into 4th position?
That is an extremely good question. I believe that... because Meerveld, I think, was one of our earliest pitters, and I think he's just managed to run around basically on his own, although he was closely followed by Dennis Latz, I think, who has since left the server entirely. So I think Meerveld has basically been able to almost uncontested drive around in clean air, execute some of that consistent good McLaren race pace that we've seen from him in the past at Paul Ricard, where he got a good result there. I think he actually came 4th at Paul Ricard as well. So looks like he is being closed in on by Oliars. Lost 0.4 of a second on the last lap. As I'm just going to have to take a jump back to that battle we were saying for P6, because Garbus is now under massive amounts of pressure from Yonkers, who has consistently been very, very quick over these last few laps. Yonkers trying to go around the outside towards turn 1. That's a brave move, but again, there's just no grip out there. This could bring York into that battle again. Garbus going a little bit defensive quite early now. Matt York firmly on the gearbox of that McLaren already, but Yonkers sticking very, very much onto the back of Garbus, and Garbus looks like he is struggling a lot for grip. He just does not seem to have anywhere near the levels of confidence that Yonkers has, who I think got a little bit caught off guard by the braking there from Garbus, but now on the run up towards Hawthorne Bend, can he do anything? It's going to be equal performance between these two cars. It's difficult to make a move, but he is absolutely glued to the back of that car, and it's really difficult to follow closely through this section. But with the amount of extra confidence he's got right now and the tyre advantage, he is making it work. But you can see the amount of time relative to Oliars, who pitted around a similar sort of time, the amount of time this is lost for Yonkers, because there's now almost a 3.5 second gap ahead of him to Oliars, who has been able to freely go off and charge onto Meerveld. So this battle absolutely raging on, but not able to make a move just yet.
Matt York's pace through turn 1 has been insane compared to these two. I think if these two keep squabbling, we might... Oh, a big mistake from Matt York. I've cursed him. He's got off wide.
That was unfortunately a very big curse.
That was a big curse. But I mean, he was catching up with these two again over the space of the lap, but especially on that last lap, he absolutely thundered through turn 1 compared to these two. I think when they're squabbling, really slowing themselves down, and they might, if they're not careful, if Yorkie can get close sort of during that sort of the third sector, if he can get within striking distance, I think between turn 1 and turn 2, he could put a big lunge on these two. He could really put a cat amongst the pigeons if he goes for it. He's dropped back slightly after that mistake on turn 1 this lap, but he's got 13 minutes. He's got time to sort of, recompress, get himself in the right zone and catch back up. And he does look like he is closing that gap up again, as it's about a second back according to my timing board at the moment. No, that's not a second. There's no way that's a second, is it? No,
it might well be. It's amazing how much the gaps can transpire to. I'd say that that's maybe sort of more along the lines of 3/4 of a second. A second might be a little bit too much, but yes, we were just sitting on board with Yonkers and seeing what he can do as he's in the slipstream now. I'm going to go back to TV cameras to see where he can go from here. Not going to be able to make that move, but can he get the cut back towards Druids? Wasn't quite able to carry the momentum through there, but he is looking extremely lively behind the number 45 car, and you just sort of feel like it's potentially a matter of time. But this is exactly what we saw with George Boothby yesterday in Tier 1. He had no tyres left, and besides one car getting through when there was a mistake from him and McCormack, allowing Malinowski to take the lead and win that race, he was somehow able to hold on to that P2 all the way to the line. And this is exactly the sort of thing that Garbus is currently doing to Marco Jonkers, and similarly is what Vince van Meerveld is doing to Marcin Oliars as well. We've got almost mirror imagery, apart from a wild Bentley in the shot. We've almost got a mirror image of these two battles taking place at two different points on the circuit, two McLarens, different tyre strategies, and a lot of very close and intense fighting.
Well, I will keep an eye on the opposite battle that you're watching. Who are you on board with? Are you with Oliars, or are you with Yonkers?
I was just looking at Yonkers and Garbus for the time being, but Yonkers made a small mistake, so I think I'm going to go ahead for now to the battle between Meerveld and Oliars, because Oliars is very, very close to the gearbox there of Meerveld, but Meerveld actually got an incredible amount of acceleration on the exit Druids. Yeah, that was a fantastic amount of traction. So, you know, those tyres might be very, very old, but they are still working extremely well, and they've worked so well, in fact, that Oliars has dropped back by a good couple of tenths of a second. So I'll have a look back at Yonkers and Garbus for now, and Matt York, that Bentley, he may have made that mistake, but he is already firmly onto the gearbox of Marco Yonkers again. So I think there's a yellow flag that was brief. Number 15 is off at the Sterling's corner. I believe that's Sheldon Muscat who is recovering, so another difficult corner for him there.
See if I can catch for Muscat.
Yeah, in the meantime, looking back at Yonkers.
Oh, big slide. Yeah, and just we managed to keep it out the wall, or maybe just a slight touch there for Muscat. But yeah, just got caught out by the sort of the opposite camber of the circuit. Back wheels on the grass, front wheels on the tarmac, and just slid sideways.
Yeah, and as we're resuming with the action towards the front. Oh, this might be the move. Yonkers has managed to get the cutback to finally work towards down the Druids. Can he outbrake? Oh, that's getting a little bit argy-bargy. Matt York now getting involved. Garbus getting punted a bit to the side there. The Bentley taking no prisoners, but is going to be left hung out to the dry on the outside there through Graham Hill's bend. But Yonkers finally managing to make the move there on to Garbus. Garbus just had nothing, but a bit like we saw with I think it was actually between Oliars and Garbus earlier. I think where Garbus actually pushed Oliars a bit deep into Druids, kind of got a little bit of a taste of his own medicine there, as got left quite wide by Yonkers, and now drops down to P7 after a titanic effort to hold on to that position.
Yeah, that was I would say a previous lap. It almost looked like Yonkers was almost going defensive. Yonkers was going defensive against Matt York as they came through. Where would that have been? That would have been. My brain's completely broken. I can't think of the word. Through Surtees. He looked like he went a little bit defensive on the exit, but now flying away. Oh, car number 15 again.
Yeah, Muscat's off again.
Sorry, mistake from Garbus, and there we go. We saw the massive pace from Matt York here on turn 1 over and over again, and now he's up the inside. Can he make it stick? Yes, he can. Gets the door closed. Yeah, I think he's done it.
Yep, I think so. I think he's going to be able to pull away now. Now the question is, does Matt York have enough pace to go after Yonkers? He's looking pretty good. So now that seems to have settled, a quick look back at Oliars and Meerveld. Meerveld, after that little bit of extension of the gap, has managed to maintain that advantage. It's only around kind of half a second or so, but he does seem to have been able to hold onto that for the time being, so he's not under too much pressure. We'll see elsewhere. Oh, was that a moment there for Oliars? I cut away. I think he held on to it. He had quite a large chunk of oversteer as he went through Dingledale Corner, but yeah, he is quite clearly pushing. Yeah, that was definitely him pushing a lot though. We've got a couple of other battles dotted around the grid. Ben Key still putting Connor Wright under a lot of pressure. Salonen's been able to completely run away from these guys. They were quite close on track at one point with a three-way battle for P9, but Salona has been able to completely drive away from them. I think we've got Terminen and Goslin that are having quite the fight. Terminen, a courageous drive from him after that cataclysmic error of not getting onto the grid in time. He's been able to have a pretty clean and consistent race, besides that one off at turn 1 in the early stages, and is now looking to try to break his way into the top 20 with a pretty good tyre advantage, I think, over some of the guys around him. So we'll see if he is able to do anything about that. But I think overall that by the looks of it, our closest fight at the moment.
Sorry, quick mistake there from Matt York, and Garbus is going to be right up on the back of him. He can smell the back of that Bentley. It was a big moment for Matt York. He went very, very deep. I believe that would have been Westfield Bend. And made a slight mistake. In regards to the Oliars incident, that was, he just outdrove himself, a bit too much inside curb, and the front of the car just washed out on him slightly. He went over the grass, so no spin, no big slide, but took a bit of an excursion through the greenery.
Yeah, well, he's been able to recover that time pretty nicely, because he is now so close to the back of Meerveld, who is putting in a very consistent and well put together drive so far. He's got just over 5 minutes left to try to survive. That should be about 4 laps of this race left to go, but it just seems that with every lap that goes by, that the differential between his and Oliar's car is just getting greater and greater. Oliar's firmly in the tow again, but these equal cars heading up towards the hill. Meerveld just looks like he has a really nicely balanced car in terms of straight line speed. Is taking good care of his tyres, and that's why he's been able to make this strategy work. But you can see that when we start to get into the higher speed corners, that the amount of commitment and confidence that Oliars is able to take in is just that bit stronger. Going to head on board with him for a few moments and see exactly what he is seeing. That bright pink rear wing of the Pulse Simsport car of Meerveld. Just, you can see Meerveld just occasionally struggling on the exits of certain corners, and Oliars clearly the faster car, but just never quite able to put himself in a position to make an overtake.
Yeah, I think in Meerveld as well he's not going that defensive, is he? He's sticking to his lines. I say that he's gone quite defensive there through Druids. But he's just trying to play his lines. Oh, and there's a door open on the inside. Not able to take advantage of it there, the Oliars. Having to go back to the outside, and looks like lost a little bit of ground after having to touch the brakes. And someone joining this battle, I think, quite soon, might be Yonkers. He got away from his previous battle with Matt York and Garbus, and it doesn't look like he's that far behind. Don't know whether he's going to be able to make a move, but he might get closer. And there's, just over 3 minutes left of the race. Can he do anything in that period of time? If these two keep squabbling, there is a possibility he can at least close the gap a little bit, which is what Meerveld needs. He needs the pressure taken off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a titanic effort so far from him. I've just jumped back to Yannick Ruoff, who was in a pretty close fight with Jay Fang. There's just a couple of these battles going on. We've got Ben Keys that's still putting Connor right under pressure as well. It's amazing how long these battles have gone on for, but just so rarely are people actually able to make an overtake. Ben Keys probably looks like he's the one best set up potentially for a move for the time being. Keeping an eye on the delta between Meerveld and Oliars though, because those two guys are still very close together on track. But yeah, Brands Hatch, it's such an amazing driver circuit, but for overtaking, it can be so difficult unless you have such an extreme tyre advantage or a power advantage to be able to make a move on your opponent. It's just such a difficult one to do. Not like we saw at Paul Ricard, we got that mighty long straight where you can use the slipstream to your advantage and do some quite easy overtakes at times on certain cars, even if it did get a bit leery at the end of that straight. But here, just not many opportunities.
No, if you want to be fast, you've got to be on the racing line, or you've got to get yourself fully committed to the inside and block off the apex. You basically have to steal the racing line and the position from people here. There's no, oh, I can go around the outside and I have an advantage into the next turn. It just doesn't exist at Brands Hatch. It's just constant, a barrage of corners essentially, and sort of undulations in the circuit, off camber, no real runoff as well. If you do make a mistake here, you either end up in the gravel, which stops you, or it's grass and then there's a barrier very close, which a couple of the guys this evening have sadly realised. Plus, there's such a different change in like the... Oh, mistake from Meerveld. Turn 1, bit too much inside curb, a little bit sideways. And did I not say that I thought Yonkers would be in this fight before the end of the race?
He was a second faster than those two ahead of him, so he is absolutely flying.
So it really shows how much work... who was that? That was Garbus. How much work Garbus was doing to hold back Yonkers for that long.
Yeah, and Yonkers is there. He is absolutely there. Yep. So yeah, absolutely, as you predicted. And oh, there's a yellow flag somewhere briefly. I didn't see who that flagged up for, but I don't think this is going to be the final lap. I think there's going to be one more. I was trying to keep an eye on where Karekas was on the track.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, he's going to be doing one more lap after this, so it might just give Yonkers enough time. Well, maybe not so much to give him enough time to make a move, but it might give Meerveld, as you say, the breathing space to be able to somehow make it to the end of this race in people. That would be an incredible result if he can. So we're going to see this one certainly go down to the wire.
Really good run by Yonkers there, coming onto the back straight, I think, oh, pit straight, sorry. He is going to have a good run into turn 1. What can Yonkers do? He goes to the outside. Big dive up the inside. Brilliant move. Gets it cut off.
Oh, it's not over yet.
Turn 2, I don't think so.
Oh, Oliaza may have gone too deep there, so it's going to be another cutback from Yonkers. Gets the drive, and you'd have to think that might be it then, but that lost them a lot of time. As Meerveld actually goes a little bit wide, I was going to say that he had a little bit of breathing room, but it's that's allowed Yonkers to get through. Olias, I'm surprised he didn't defend that more. He really did leave the door open in towards turn 1, and although he put up a pretty good fight to try to get that position back, just that it was already kind of job done at that point.
If you think about the battles he's been having...
Meerveld off.
Meerveld's really pushing, isn't he? He's desperate to hold on to it for this one last lap. Car number 15 off again, so that is the Audi off again.
Yeah, sorry, Karekas has just crossed the line to win the race. Incredible effort from him. Just wanted to see him cross the line. I think it's going to be pretty even for, or staying the same for Razir and Marlon to get second and third, so great drives from them. Meerveld has one more corner to go. Can he hold on to this? Yonkers power sliding his way through the final corner, but I don't think he's going to have enough. That's an incredible effort there from Meerveld. I'm sure that his fans and Josh will be very pleased in the chat for that, but what a brilliant fight between those guys.
Yeah, big flash from Meerveld across the line as well. Really good effort, just trying to keep an eye on other guys who hasn't crossed the line yet. Oh, Meerveld just went spinning off into the distance, so... on a rounding out the top 10. Just trying to see, was there anyone else that was taking it all the way to the line. I think that's most drivers there. Who hasn't crossed the line? 15th
Just
place.
looking at Vioris and Terminen, because Terminen was looking pretty quick, but I think he's going to run out of time. But he did manage to get into the top 20 in the end, and Benjamin King did lose some of those positions. We didn't quite see how that transpired. He was in 15th at some point as Terminen sends himself flying into the wall. But
Frustration vent.
yes, I imagine so. But yeah, Benjamin King, we didn't quite see how that transpired because we had so many other fights going on. But he did drop those positions at the end there. But still finishing in P18, which is a good effort from him. But yeah, there we have it. What an incredible race.
Really well done by everyone. Obviously, the podium guys, really well done. I mean, obviously, also, like, look at the differences in the pit strategies. Caracas, pretty late compared to the rest of the field on his pit stops. And then you look at Marlon Andrade, who did a really early pit stop. I mean, and they've both basically retained their positions on the track. Obviously, we did see Razir get second position. But yeah, you know, like, that's really different strategies have almost come around and given them the exact same finish overall. So, like, it's really good to see that sometimes it all comes down to how fast you are on the circuit as opposed to who's got the best pit strategy. But really well done by all the drivers. I'll have a double check and see if anyone is trying to join us. But do feel free to come and join us in the commentary box, guys. Anyone that wants to join us, obviously podium guys, come and join us. Or anybody else, if you just want to come and say, hey, it went well for me this evening, come and let us know.
Yeah, it's always good to talk to the drivers, and yeah, and just following up on the pit strategy aspect. Yeah, such diverse choices and such a diverse range of results as well. You know, Meerveld made that undercut work brilliantly. He had to fight incredibly hard to hold on to that position, but he absolutely made it work. Very similar sort of pattern to what we saw with George Boothby yesterday in Tier 1. And yeah, Caracas, he lost a little bit of time in the early phase of that pit stop because of pitting that bit later, but the extent that he was able to push the car all the way to the end of the race and not really feel the amount of tyre wear that some of the other guys like Marlon were suffering from, he won the race by over 10 seconds, which when you consider how close some of the battles, the qualifying margins and all of that is, a margin of over 10 seconds, I'm not sure if that is greater than what we saw Mark Toll have last week. I'm not sure where that sits relative to him, but it's another dominant performance from a driver, but this week going to Caracas. And again, Mr. Consistency, he has not finished off the podium once. And with Masum unfortunately not able to compete in this race, that is going to be putting him in incredibly strong standing in the championship. So a brilliant drive from him today, even if it was a quiet one.
I was just having a quick read through some bits and pieces. Sorry, I was just double checking sort of the chat and obviously our Discord as well, the AOR Discord. Got to say, if anyone is just watching at home and they're sort of thinking, oh, I really fancy getting into thing, but don't know where to start, come and do it. Come and join Apex Online Racing. The Discord, there's a plethora of different races going on and different abilities. They obviously do tiers 1 all the way to 10, I believe. So a nice mix. So even if you're not a full-blown alien like the guys that we've seen here this evening, there is a place for you. I mean, they even take complete losers like me, and they let me. They've opened me with, you know, join me. Let me in with open arms. Let's say that. That's the words I'm trying to say. So yeah, come and join us. All the links you need are in the description of this video. So if you fancy joining us, go for it. No one wants to talk to us, John. Are we that scary?
I would hope we're not that scary, but yes, it does seem unfortunately that everyone's a little bit shy. So we'll let them potentially figure out if they do want to come talk to us, but we'll just have a quick final rundown of the results. So Grantis Caracas finishing in P1 after a very dominant and quiet drive, but I'm sure that he won't have been complaining about that whatsoever. Razir, strong finish for him in P2, making up for that performance at the Nürburgring. Marlon Andrade, after showing great pace for pole position at the Nürburgring, good showing from him again. Wasn't quite able to stick with those top guys, but closing out the podium spots. Vince van Meerveld, personally, I think my driver of the day, just for the sheer amount of resilience that he had to show for almost 25 minutes straight of pressure from Oliars and then Yonkers, and he absolutely extracted everything from the car to finish in P4. So brilliant drive from him.
Qualified in 7th, Meerveld, so that's a really good jump.
It's a stellar effort, and also when you consider how much he was struggling for pace at the end, he was only 6.5 seconds away from the podium, which, when you consider the strategy, obviously similar kind of strategy to Marlon, but Marlon wasn't really under too much pressure, but Meerveld was under constant pressure and could not even breathe, usually, for a second, with what ended up being 2 McLarens, a Bentley, all overall hunting him down. So yeah, that was a fantastic showing from him. Yonkers maybe a little bit disappointed in the end, obviously had a tremendous pace, but only was able to get to 5th. Oliars in 6th, Matt York. Good result from him in the Bentley after McCoffey.
12th.
Yeah, so yeah, really good way for him to break into the top 10 and just put in. Did make a couple of small mistakes, maybe cost him a chance at that battle with Oliars and Meerveld. Probably would have had to have given way to Yonkers in the end anyway. But yeah, generally a consistent drive from him. Garbus tried to get that strategy to work a bit like Meerveld, but just didn't seem to quite have the same amount of pace, and unfortunately ended up losing out to those other guys. Salonen, a good effort from him to finish in P9, drove away from Wright and Keys, who stayed line astern to the end. Yannick Ruoff, a good performance from him to be our first Aston representing the very nice. He's disconnected from the server. That's unfortunate. He was on the stream. I was going to highlight his Lightning McQueen number 95 livery, which also another standout. Yes, absolutely. Maybe not the most conventional car to put it on, but definitely a nice looking livery. Jay Fang finishing in 13th, Steinhauser 14th, Cowley 15th, Yang Gang 16th. McCoffkin, after that penalty at the beginning of the race, was only able to get himself back up to 17th. Benjamin King breaking into the top 20, so good result from him. Vioris, the anime Bentley, finishing P19. Terminen, after that awful mistake before the race even got going of not getting on the grid, did manage to get himself up to P20, but I'm sure that he'll be absolutely gutted, having started in 11th, to be fighting for scraps, really, in relative terms, by the end of the race. Goslin, 21st for him. Totev, 22nd. Jan Climbs, an eventful race for him, 23rd. Shooter 80, similar sort of issues, I think, also struggling a little bit for pace here. And then our non-finishers, Muscat, got unfortunately a bit battered and bruised in the latter stages for 25th. David Mame had his own instance, 26th. Polyakov, 27th. Jarzabowski in 28th. Dennis Latz, still never really saw what happened to him, but did retire quite early on in 29th. And unfortunately, with probably the worst commentator's curse of the stream, but from the chat, is for Gregory Goldsmacker, who finished in 30th and was 30 laps down by the end of the race, and unfortunately did not smash the field, but ended up finding himself in stone dead last. So unfortunate result from him there, but yeah, what an absolutely magnificent race.
Yeah, I mean, I was just blown away by it this evening. Really good to see everyone so clean. Oh, it might be. I'm trying. I've just interrupted someone else's stream to see if we can get an interview.
Be good if
there
we
we
can
go. Cool, managed to get someone right. We've got Yorkie. He's going to jump in with us. I will drag him into our interview box. Obviously, we saw him. He had a really good run, so we'll drag him in with us right now, and we can have a little chat with him. Matt York, can you hear us? Oh, that's not a good start.
That's not the most fantastic of starts. He is in...
There we go.
There we go.
There he is.
There I am, talking away, saying that I can't hear you as a joke, and you're like, "Oh, this is a good start." I realised, yeah, push to talk. Sorry.
Great race for you, mate. Qualified in 12th. Obviously, you inherited a position from Terminin straight away, but all the way up in 7th. Great effort.
Yeah, thanks. It was quite nice coming into this race. I was initially a little bit worried, and then last night the practice race was massive confidence boost. Because obviously, not all the tier 2 guys do the practice races, but me and Van Meerveld were in there, and we were both very, very similar on pace. In fact, I was slightly quicker than him. We had a great battle in that race. So that was a massive confidence boost, and I knew that if I could get a reasonable qualifying, I might be able to do something. And it was purely down to race strategy, but as you probably saw, the undercut is very powerful around this track.
Yeah, I mean, we were amazed by your pace through turn 1. I think it was Oliyars and Garbus who, sort of for a little while, you were following those two while they were squabbling, and the amount of the pace advantage you had down towards Druids was ridiculous. I mean, was that just because you think they were squabbling, or was that sort of setup and your driving style in the Bentley that gave you the advantage through turn 1?
I'm not entirely sure, so I'm going to put it down to them squabbling, I think.
Yeah. Go with the option.
Yeah,
No,
I know there's a couple of places that the Bentley is strong. The braking into turn 2 was good. I was also finding that the second to last corner on the backside of the track, they're very awkward, kind of like second gear left-hander. Yeah. Going through there, the Bentley's pretty good, and as well as the final corner, but some of the faster corners along that back section, the McLarens just have the advantage, and Andre's a bit of an alien in the Ferrari, so I knew he was always going to be quick and untouchable, but yeah, the setup worked very, very nicely. I found a very good balance with the car. I think getting used to it a little bit more as well this season is obviously a new car for me.
Yeah, because you were in the Aston Martin last season, weren't you?
Yeah, correct.
Any reason for the change, or just fancy the change?
Yeah, kind of fancy the change. I ran the Aston for like the last 2-3 seasons, so I wanted to try something else. I wanted to also make a custom livery, and the Bentley's got an awful lot of body work and body panel space, so yeah, front engine cars suit me quite nicely, so Bentley seemed like the next logical option. Plus it sounds like an absolute beast.
Yes, it's a wonderful engine tone, isn't it?
Yes, glorious engine tone with the artillery cannons on the side for the downshifts.
Well, thank you ever so much for joining us. I say brilliant effort by you this evening, obviously all the way from 12th up to 7th, so I mean a real gargantuan effort. I'm really glad to have you back with us again in Tier 2 this season.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you ever so much for joining us. Any final words before we call this a day, I think, at this point?
Donington next week. Look out. It's going to be interesting.
Oh, we're confident. That's confident talk, that is.
I like it.
This is where I have probably the worst race of the season.
Quite possibly, but you can't...
Yeah, just jinx myself.
I would say, as you couldn't possibly jinx yourself as much as, unfortunately, one of the early chat comments were for Goldsmacker to smash the competition, and then unfortunately was the first person to retire in this race. So, you know, the standard for jinxing has been set pretty high. So you should at least be in relative terms be somewhat safe.
I guess we'll find out next week, won't we?
Absolutely.
Good luck for next week, mate.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Enjoy your evening. Take care.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Cheers. Bye.
Wait.
Well, at least we got one interview.
We managed to get one interview. I may have dipped into his YouTube chat and gone chasing, but you know it's got to be done sometimes, hasn't it? You've got to chase after him, get people involved. I think people get scared about coming in the post race interviews, but we're lovely, we're friendly, reasonably. You know, I mean, I think so.
I would like to hope so.
I'd like to hope so too. So thank you ever so much again, John, for running the show this evening and well and truly saving us after my complete hardware failures. So thank you ever so much for saving it again this evening.
Very, very welcome. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully I didn't see any complaints about issues with the stream during that race, so I'm hoping that it was a pretty good broadcast. But yes, it was absolutely my pleasure, and hopefully it was a good stream overall.
I think so. I think it went all right.
Fantastic. Well, in which case then, I guess we shall look to wrap this one up. So thank you very much for joining me in the commentary box, Tim, for another week of brilliant racing in Tier 2. We will be back again at Apex Online Racing for Tier 1 next week on Monday for Donington, and then Tier 2 with myself and Tim on Tuesday, 7:30 start UK time as always, and hopefully we shall see some brilliant racing once again. So thank you very much everybody for watching and joining the stream tonight, and we shall see you then.
See you soon.